Greetings. We are a group of interdimensional beings speaking to you on behalf of the Galactic Federation, and more importantly, we represent the wishes of all that is. Today, we would like to address some things that have taken place as an update to our previous transmission. As mentioned in our previous transmission, we were on a mission to alleviate the region of your North America of the many layers of hierarchy as set up by the invading forces represented by the Draco-Reptilian and Orion Greys. This mission was successful. We have since then, over the last few days, completed similar missions in the United Kingdom and Australia, and both those missions have been utterly successful. What these missions have revealed to us is the utter control and domination of these invading species upon your Earth plane. They have had much time to perfect their deprivation within your society, and they have achieved this. The mere fact that they have done all of this without you knowing about it is a clear indication that they have succeeded in their mission of complete domination. As this lid, if you will, is being lifted from your Earth plane, your population will be exposed to many areas of their depravity. There will be much unrest, and many will feel exposed as a result of this. The most vulnerable will be the ones that have been receiving guidance from these beings or ones that have had them as handlers. They are now being exposed to continue with their depraved agendas on their own. Without these beings whispering in their ears, it will now be up to these individuals and from their individual perspective to see which way they choose to move forward. Most of these beings that have been serving these Dark Lords have lost their way, and many of them have completely taken on their belief systems for their own. They have unfortunately been led far down some terrible paths of depravity, where they have been tutored to believe in false gods or dark energies that are, for the most part, holographic representations of images conjured up by the imaginations of a few. These conjured images from the past have been the foundation of what their belief systems were built on, and have only grown as each layer of depravity added on, as members that came into this fold contributed to. Let us illustrate. The founding members of this depraved societal hierarchy needed to bind their members in a way that would keep them loyal to their cause. They were not able to reveal themselves to the majority of this hierarchy, as they wished to keep them from being terrified of them. They, however, revealed themselves to the first layer of this pyramidic structure. It was during these initial plans that they conjured up plans on how to keep the rest of the ruling class committed to their cause. Fear was the main ingredient, and so during each person's initiation into their depraved society, they subjected each one to terrible acts of violence. During these events, the initiate was drugged and in many cases subject to many mind control technologies. This process allowed for these beings to delve into the individual's mind to explore their deepest fears and secrets. These were then created into holographic scenarios and presented to these individuals as the initiation continued. As these images of horror were presented to the individuals, psychological trauma and damage was suffered, rendering the individual into a state of utter vulnerability. Once this was achieved, they then were presented with scenarios of peace and well-being at the hands of their future handler. In this way, the mind was programmed to surrender to the handler out of utter fear and desperation. Once the initiation was completed, agreements were made, and a time of rest was then allowed. thus sealing the individual to their handler for life. As time moved on, the individual was subjected to these holographic images as a way of keeping the individual committed to the agreement and to the hierarchical structure. These depravities and holograms became more sophisticated as time went by, as they built on and collected the fears of the initiates that were already part of their hierarchy. A boogeyman, if you will, was conjured up that became the main deity of these gatherings as the holograms became more and more depraved. These energies gave rise to actual creatures, as this is what humans can do. They were able to create through their intent and through their minds, whether good or bad. As a result, a class of demons and their minions were created, each attached to individuals or group of individuals with tasks assigned to them as deemed fit by these ruling classes. This depravity continues to this day as a means of satanic worship and is the crux of the practices known as satanic ritual abuse. These practices are carried out in much pomp and celebration, with sacrifices of children and other such depravities. There is much evidence of these practices if you do some research. Your film industry and pornographic industry are rife with these practices. They are a hub for providing these hierarchies with their blood elixirs, sexual favors, and other such depravities. All of these acts and much more is what we are uncovering as we move through these missions in the countries that we have spoken about so far. These depravities are deeply rooted within the minds and the psyche of each member of this ruling class. They are and have been wounded by these terrible acts against their individual soul. As we have said before, with the removal of their handlers, these beings are now left to their own devices and are like wounded lions who are thirsty for a kill. These beings, unfortunately, are the many that have been placed in important positions within your society and the ones making decisions about your well-being and your lives. It is impossible for the light to reach these beings at this stage of their depravity, as they are so deeply wounded and in their minds believe that what they were practicing was utterly for their own good and for the good of the population. These are the difficulties that we are up against as we see the terrible devastation that has been left behind by these retreating entities. We ask you to take a moment and reflect on all of this information that has just been presented to you. We understand that many of you might be hearing this for the first time. The way forward, unfortunately, is for your society as a collective to accept what has taken place and heal from its wounds. It is through this healing that you will emerge and be whole again. We have addressed other areas of the depravity that has been rendered on the population in our previous discourses. One very important aspect is the soul fragmentation that has taken place on a majority of the population. By doing this act against the individual, these beings essentially severed the connection they had with their soul, their connection to their higher self, and all that is. With this severing, they found ways and means to reduce the individual to a lower vibrating energy susceptible to fear and dread. In these states, it was easy for them to control the population and render them into a state of surrender. In this current state of potential shock, we ask you to stay calm and remain focused on what it is we are trying to achieve. Your earth plane is being liberated so that she may be returned to her former glory of a plane of existence in abundance, peace, joy, and harmony. As we progress, we rid the earth of these entities and their savage rule. It is now time for you to find it in your hearts and your mind to heal from these terrible acts. As we move through this process, we are able to remove these handlers, but what we need assistance with is liberating the human aspect of this terrible bond that was created by this societal network. With the removal of these handlers, the humans that they protected and controlled are now being revealed and are left to fend for themselves. They are by no means innocent. Many of them have over time become aware of the beings that control them and their hierarchical structure. However, they were, for many reasons, unable to remove themselves from this commitment as they were in too deep for the most part. As these beings now emerge from their tarnished past, they will need understanding and compassion from the rest of the population. For the many that need to face judgment for their acts, this will be done on a higher level, as decreed by the energy of all that is. These beings will face judgment on a soul level for the depravity that they have taken part in and tainted their soul with. We ask you to absorb all of this and allow for healing to take place within your heart as it extends out towards the many. We ask you to find a quiet place to go within and process all of this information. Reflect on the fact that you are not alone and that help is here. You are in the presence of the energy of all that is, and many higher dimensional beings who have traveled from far-off galaxies and universes to assist in this process of your healing and ascension. As these energies process through your mind and your body, we ask you to imagine a place for yourself where you will have everything that you need in abundance and in peace. Perhaps it is a meadow with a beautiful stream flowing through it. As you come to rest in this quiet place, allow for the sound of the water to wash over your being as it heals your body and your mind. Allow for the images and the energies to wash away, releasing all of this to the higher light so that they may transmute and heal. Imagine a life for yourself and all of humanity going forward in unity and harmony as you align your energies in peace and love, sharing with each other the abundance that you have in your life as they share their abundance with you. The air is pure and the land is teeming with life. You hear the birds and the creatures as they sing their own songs. There is much peace and harmony all around you. As you emerge from this short meditation, we ask you to move through your day, holding these thoughts of abundance and peace in your heart and in your mind. We will leave you now in peace and joy upon your path. Blessings.